decided this year, in consultation with Mr. Borg and Mr. Simmons, really, to spread this out over 2 meetings. I didn't want us to be rushed, getting the information, making a recommendation that night. I'd like folks to have a chance to, especially us on the council, I'd like us to have a chance to process the information that we receive, have some conversations, to really kind of figure out what it is that we want to do.
Just to kind of refresh you on the previous tax rate, you voted for a CIP shift of 1.17 last year. This resulted in a property tax rate for residential at $12.79, $15.48 for commercial and industrial, and $15.44 for the personal property. Again, just to highlight that small commercial exemption and how that shift impacted, it put the burden back into the commercial and industrial, right? And then your shift, instead of having a single rate, provided 17% relief to the residents in town. The town in the past year grew by $622,807,840 for an overall growth of 12.09%. Class 1 shows that residential properties, all of the types, right, and there are several different types, grew by $603,500,735, which is 13.83%. Of all the property in town of that $5.7 billion, right now $4.9 billion are residential properties. They are the vast majority of all the properties here in town. So when you see a commercial increase of 1.02%, it's only hundreds of millions, not billions, of the town's property. It's $582 million of the value. If you look at class 4, right, it's $4,775,000, and it had an increase of 4.2%. So they are going to have a less impact on the overall vote. We see in the market today limited inventory that are up for sale. Sales are still happening at asking or higher. And this is driving the valuations of the property. Right? The key takeaway is residential properties are driving the train here today, but you have some tools in the wheelhouse that can protect residents. What we have seen and what we're seeing on the average assessed, not the appraisal, there is a difference. This is assessed value, right? It increased by $71,000 this year alone. Initial tax rate calculation, right, using the levy that was voted and approved for and modified slightly by DOR when they finished with the numbers. Using that valuation, it comes to 0.01211, which equals $12.11 per assessed thousand of value. If the town council voted for a single tax rate with no shift, with a CIP shift of 1.00, compared to last year, the average home would see an increase, that one at $497, $569 this year, would see an increase in their property taxes by $532 alone. Commercial would see a reduction of $6,000. Industrial would see a reduction of $2,500 almost, and personal property around $600. If the council were to consider a 1.15, and that's pretty close to the 1.17 that you have, that would result in a $367 increase from last year to this year for that average home, right? In the residential, a reduction by $2,600 in commercial, and you see how that's going across the rest of that slide. 1.3, if the council were to consider that, would have a slight impact on residential of $196, but raise commercial $600, industrial $487, and then personal property $211. So you find that somewhere in that band, that kind of is where the decreases that you saw kind of peter out, and you see how this leveling out. You see Attleboro, they were at a shift of 1.38 last year, and that resulted in the tax rate you see there. This year they voted to go to 1.41 in their shift. Also, we have Foxborough. Foxborough was at 1.21 in their shift. This year, they voted to go to 1.25.
We will pick this back up at our next meeting in earnest.